Hi, what's up, friends? My name's Jessie Allen, and I'm here, and I'm going to talk about something relatively serious today. So I came out to my parents. I'm bi. I like girls and I like guys. I haven't explicitly said this on this channel before, so I'm just going to make a video talking about how I came to realize this and how this has affected me in a lot of ways. So I'm just going to be talking about a lot of things in relation to this. I didn't really know what homosexuality was growing up, or that was even a possible thing. I'd watched Friends, and there are the lesbian characters on Friends, and I was in the middle of class in my first year at school one time, and I asked my teacher what the word lesbian meant, and she said, "It's a term people use to describe best friends who are really close, but it's also making fun of their friendship, so it's a negative term." Something along those lines, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're just really close friends. Gal pals at its finest. Said this a million times in real life, why is it hard to say to a camera? I only figured out what homosexuality was once I started watching Glee back when that first came out. And so I figured out from there that guys could like guys because of Kurt's character, but I didn't figure out that girls were the same thing, or could do the same thing, and I didn't figure out that bisexuality was a thing that existed, so I was like, oh, okay, cool, thumbs up. And I hadn't really seen any prior examples of all that, so. And again, I didn't figure out that lesbian actually meant girl and girl relationship until Glee comes along. And even then, I still didn't know that bisexuality was a thing. First time I heard someone describe what bisexuality was, I was 12 years old. But in the same sentence, this person told me that it wasn't real, and that bisexuals are people who cannot make up their minds. So, for a minute there, I just kind of went question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, question marks were happening in my head, if that makes any sense. Like, that's me. But then they said that it wasn't real, and I went, oh, okay. Because at this point, I think I had started to have an inkling toward girls as well, but why is this hard to say in front of the camera? But I just assumed that I wanted to be good, close friends with them. No. So I knew I definitely liked boys at this point, so I was like, right, nope, I'm straight as heck. How wrong I was. Wildly uncomfortable. I'm gonna sit up and adjust the camera a little bit because my head isn't in the frame and I'm not crouching down like this. Readjusted. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, it was thanks to really the internet and Tumblr and a whole bunch of other places that made me realize that, hey, that is a real thing. But I still didn't feel good about this, or I didn't want to explore any of this, and I felt like it was a bad thing due to what that person had said to me. That was just a bad way to start my knowledge off of all this topic. So I suppressed a lot of that feeling for a very long time. And when it comes to crushes and relationships, I am very good at convincing myself that I like other people. So what I would do is I would suddenly find myself having like a slight feeling for this one boy, and then I would just run with it, and that's not a good way to go. Just telling you now. Ran with all of this all the way through my year 9, and I ran with it until about halfway through term 1 was when I figured out, oh, okay, something's up. I went to a new school after my year 9. That's a whole different story in itself why I changed, but there was a girl there, and who shall not be named, who was incredibly attractive, and I'm like, wow. And I had done a show with her back in 2012, and she would have been a year 11 at that point, and I was 12, but I was just in awe of her back then, and I'm still in awe of her now. Like, oh, so basically my thought process upon seeing her for the first time again, like halfway through term 1, is, oh, I'm so glad I'm at a school with her again. Oh, it's totally lovely. I totally date her. Wait, oh, what? basically how my thought process started on this. This girl was in a relationship, still in the relationship with the same guy, great couple. No intention of stealing her off of him or anything, because she's out of my league. But you get the point. If they're watching this, they know exactly who they are. So hello. Nice. Again, these were things I did not entirely want to feel, and I didn't really explore any of my emotions toward this until a long way down the track from there. I just kept on going with crush after crush after crush after crush after crush after crush on boys, and I ended up leaping into a relationship with one. I had a small feeling toward him, and I escalated it really quickly because I didn't want to have to deal with this feeling that I was having toward this girl or other girls that had since arisen in this period of time. So that relationship was not healthy. Not only for the reason of me not being in it, but yeah, that relationship wasn't healthy, not just for me suppressing my feelings for girls, and that's not entirely why. There's a lot of other components into that I don't really want to talk about here. I figured out that this was what I was, maybe during major production that year, during the week of major production of that year, while I was still in a relationship with this boy, and I'm like, okay, so that was incredibly stressful, and I wasn't really totally honest with myself at that point either. Like, I thought about it and I was like, okay, let's leave that alone, and then I didn't really come to terms with it and accepted it until term 4 that year. Term 4 that year was lit when I came to terms with all of this, and it was a long and complicated road to get there. I took about 6 months, no, not even 6 months, longer than that, 8 months maybe, to figure that out, and yeah. Wow, I've been filming this for 11 minutes, this is ages. So the next bit was coming out. I didn't really have an official gather all my friends around at school and say, hi, I like girls as well, whoop whoop thing, because my school is very chill and accepting of everyone. So it was just kind of actually, hi, I'm not straight after all, lols. And coming out to other people was a different story. I believe how I came out to my theatre company at that point in time was, looked up the name of one of the characters I was playing in a show on Urban Dictionary, and under the related words came the word gay. And so what was being asked in this chat was, what does the name Mavis even mean? And I was like, I'm gonna look it up, and so I screenshotted that and I was like, gay, perfect for me. And then there was silence for a while. And I know that gay is not the same as bisexual, but I was just trying to segue into this, if that's the right word. And one of the guys says, is this your way of saying you're a lesbian? And I'm like, well, I'm bi. I thought this was common knowledge because I'm just trying to not make it awkward, even though it probably was not common knowledge at all. So yeah, that's how most of the people started to know about that in that theatre company. And yeah, over time I've just generally said, oh hey, by the way, I like girls too. To people who come up to me. Yeah. People ask me, so have you got a boyfriend? I'll be like, don't assume that we don't. I overcompensate with physicality when I'm really nervous about what I'm talking about, so please bear with me. Coming out to family was an interesting time. I was terrified of doing it, so which is why I held off until, I don't know, maybe just over a week ago of filming this video. I remember back in 2013, I think, when gay marriage was legalized in New Zealand, in the country I'm living in. Woohoo! Love wins! I remember saying yes to the TV, because even at that point in time, I was supportive of LGBT. I was just not thinking I was a part of that. And my mother looks at me and says no. And so there were like little things spread out, which I got into my head that my parents would not be okay with this. So what I ended up doing was I went to a counsellor who I've been seeing since about early October last year. The therapist, or whatever you want to call it. Issues. You see, so I brought them into an appointment for the first time together, and one of the first things that came out in conversation was, Mum, Dad, I'm bi. I like girls and boys. And in that moment, every piece of me was absolutely terrified. And I'm like, and then Dad, who's sitting on the other side of this couch, looks at me and says, "Is that all?" And I just start bawling. Like, I was already crying a wee bit, and I just start. It's going everywhere down my face. And my mother is on that chair on the other side. I know what I'm talking about. There's a couch here, and then the counselor sits there, and then the other chair sits there. My mother was in that chair, and she's just smiling, and I'm like, what is happening? So essentially my dad is incredibly chill, which I was not expecting at all. And my mother is still a bit wary of it, I guess, but that's a lot better than what I was expecting, and she's willing to learn. So I'm very grateful that I have people willing to say, hey, hey. And, yeah. The other thing is, there's not a lot of bisexual representation on the earth or the media or anything. Most of what you'll see is people coming out as gay, and the people who are out as bisexual, you don't often know that they are, because the media will paint them as straight, although they're not. That's not a very concise discussion. That's not the right word. You get the point. So I didn't have a lot of examples to go off of people announcing or saying, hey guys, I'm this. I didn't really have a lot. I remember in the process leading up to this appointment 8 days ago with my parents, watching Troye Sivan's coming out video, watching Shane Dawson's coming out video. That's the one I watched the most, I think, because it was the only one from a YouTuber I watched that was one for coming out for my particular sexuality. And I just, yeah, a lot of things were going on. My advice is, don't let anyone pressure you into coming out before you're ready to. You need to be in a spot where you are so okay with who you are, and then so that it doesn't matter. And at that point, to me, I was scared, obviously, because I've always wanted to be approved of by my parents, but the thing was, I was just gonna keep doing me, even if they didn't like it, you know? So you need to be in a spot where you're so okay with yourself, and find a group of friends who are okay with you, and if they're not okay with you, then they're not friends. And, my advice for you. Love has no gender. Love wins. I think this is a bit too serious to go over the usual spiel of like and subscribe. So we're not gonna do that. I just want to sign off with, hey, I'm bi, and I'm okay. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this ramble, which will probably be extremely long. I'm bi. Love has no gender. Love wins. Goodbye.